Fora TV. The world is thinking.
And so if you're an ecologist, you know that species can only be understood in relation to their environment. The same is true for human-designed objects. And what I want to show you is that the same is true for something like a religious system and other kinds of cultural systems. And so just to drive this home, here's a wonderful creature. Let's say that I gave this to you and I asked you to explain, to describe it and to study it without any reference to its environment. How would you go about doing it? And you would be tremendously handicapped if you were trying to explain this without knowing anything about its environment. This is not the best example because we know enough about this creature. We know it's a sea dragon. We know that it lives in the Sargasso Sea, and so we know that those amazing ornaments are to camouflage it against its natural background. So we can't really do the thought experiment of explaining something like this without reference to its environment. Here's a human implement. It's a kitchen gadget. How many of you know what this is? How many of you know for sure what it is? Okay, some do, don't say. The others don't. Now once again, this is an imperfect thought experiment because by virtue of the fact that it's a human implement, you know that it was designed for a purpose. Okay? But most of you don't know what that purpose is. And so if I ask you to describe it without knowing what its purpose is, you're going to have a tough time. Okay, so now I'm going to tell you what its purpose is, and you'll have an aha experience. Okay. It is a avocado slicer. And now that you know its purpose, it is so much more interpretable than when you didn't know its purpose. Okay. This is what functional design thinking is all about. Okay, well, how about this? How about if I showed you this fellow and asked you to explain him and his beliefs without knowing anything about the relationship between his belief system and his environment. This is a Jain, an ascetic Jain. The Jain religion is over 2,000 years old, about 3% of the population of India. And to look at him, for sure you'd think he had a disease. And so you know Richard Dawkins, my colleague, is famous for basically thinking of religion as like a cultural parasite, something that infects you and wastes you, something which is good for itself, spreads like a disease organism because it's infective, but not good for individuals or groups. Doesn't it seem that this is a good candidate for a religion as a disease? Well, perhaps until you learn more about the religion. And then what you learn is that the Jain religion, this is the ascetic Jains are a tiny fraction of the religious community whose lay members are among the wealthiest merchants in India. The Jains are a middleman merchant society, and culturally they are convergent with the Jews in Western Europe, with the Chinese in Southeast Asia. They're a trading society. They need to cooperate at a large scale. They live in diaspora communities, and the religion enables them to cooperate much better than without the religion. And the religion succeeds spectacularly, purely in secular terms. Let me just tell you one story about what the ascetic Jains do. This is a tiny little piece of the story, but the Jains have to beg, the ascetics have to beg for food, and because their food restrictions are so severe, they could only accept food from the most devout Jain households. And the principle of non-action dictates they could only take a little bit of food from any household. And so what they spend their days doing is they go from household to household. And when they come in, they minutely inspect it for its purity, and they ask penetrating questions to the families saying, have you done this? Have you done that? And only if they pass the test will they accept a little bit of food and leave with the food, which is publicly recognized by the entire community. And so the Jains are acting as a form of policing the strength of the religious adherence of the community. And if you're an evolutionist, you know, if you study social insect colonies or other highly cooperative animal societies, you know that policing has a lot to do with it. And that's just a little bit of the story.